Welcome back to Animal Crossing New Horizons. I'm Dear Darling, as you can see what's going on our lovely island of Fawnhollow today. I hope if you're playing Tears of Kingdom, whatever it's called, that you're having a fantastic time. Or not having a fantastic time, you know, if you're not, that's fine too. I suppose that's kind of like the biggest news in gaming recently. Well, that's not necessarily true. I suppose it kind of depends on what circles you're into. But, you know, it's the only thing I've been reading about. Well, not reading much about, but sort of just seeing everywhere, being like, oh, you know, Tears of Kingdom, it's like the highest grossing game in the UK or something for like ever or something, I can't remember. Anyway, hello everyone. Right now in Fawnhallow at 6:10 PM on Wednesday, May 17th, 2023. I don't remember the exact details. Am I going to play it? Maybe in some point in the future, but it's not really like, it's not in the works for me right now, because I do feel like I need to play Breath of the Wild 1. Well, I don't have to, you know. I feel like Legend of Zelda's, a lot of the games kind of stand on their own, you know, like lore timeline be damned or whatever. It's kind of a thing you can just sort of pick up and play, right? They're sort of like contained stories, as I understand it. Don't know how true that is necessarily, but anyway. What other news has come out recently? Gaming news, that is, because that's an easy thing to talk about. I know that Overwatch 2, they cancelled their PvE mode, which is sort of like, you know, wild, because isn't that the whole... I thought the whole reason that Overwatch 2 was made was because they wanted to introduce the PvE mode, and then now it's just full-on cancelled. I don't know what's going on with Blizzard or whatever, but, you know, oh well, I suppose. I don't really play any of their games, so I suppose... Sucks if you are one of the people who play their games, but I suppose it's sort of thing which I'm just sort of like on the sidelines watching, so I don't feel like it's really my place to comment on, to be honest. But what it did remind me of, it reminded me of a good days playing Team Fortress 2 and playing a Man vs Machine mode, which is weird because I didn't even play Man vs Machine that much, because it was kind of released towards like the end, not the end, but towards the end of me and my friend group playing Team Fortress 2. Eventually we just like kind of stopped playing it, not because we were like, whoa, this game sucks or anything. It's just, you know, flavour of month, it comes and goes. You don't necessarily play a game forever unless it's League of Legends, in which case I guess you do kind of play it forever in my case. But yeah, I forgot what I was saying about this. Yeah, it reminded me of those Man vs Machine, where it's like sort of PvE, sort of like endless survival, tower defense sort of games, except for I suppose a TF2 you can't really have like it being a tower defense. It's much more like I don't know what you call it, like a real-time tower defense where you are the tower, which is probably not, I guess at that point you would just call it like a defense mode, like a shooter defense mode, rather than real tower defense, because that kind of, you know, it doesn't have towers, I guess, unless you play engineer, but still. Like, you know, I think I talked about tower defenses before. Like, they've never been particularly like my sort of cup of tea. You know, like, it's sort of like hit or miss for me, you know. Sometimes I'm like, I get a real craving to play them. I'm like, oh yeah, this like exactly hits the spot. Because I remember there used to be this Flash game or something on, I don't even remember which of the games that was on, Congregate or something, which was shown to me by a friend back in primary school. It was called Vector TD. Let's see if it still exists. And I remember that was like my jam when it came to tower defense. I don't know why that game sticks in my mind so much. There you go. It was on Crazy Games, I guess. But I loved playing it. Apparently it's on my phone now, so there you go. So that seems like a perfect place for it to go to. I don't know. I guess it was such like a clean, minimalist sort of style and interface, which I don't know if that necessarily appeals to me all that much, but I think aesthetically it does appeal to me in like real life, and I don't know how much that necessarily translates to games, but I don't know. Maybe it was also just because a friend introduced it to me, and it was like one of the first tower defenses. I think it was the first tower defense I ever played. I was like, I don't even know what this wild new concept for a game is. Weird to think about the fact that when I was younger, you know, that person was much more of a gamer than I was, to be honest. Nowadays, I'm sure it's inverted, but I don't know if that's necessarily true, you know. He might be like the biggest gamer I would ever know. But yeah, where was I going with all this? It's really weird to think about, because that game, Vector TD, and there's another game, I think this one was on Congregate, I'm not really sure, or maybe it was by Kiwi Games or something, which stick in my mind as games I played multiple times and loved playing. This one was called like Robot Wars, was it called Robot Wars? Robot Wars Flash game. It's basically it basically was Robot Wars, you know, like the TV show, but it was like you build your own robot, you like fight it, you like choose a chassis, you choose a sort of like body you're using for it, you choose a weapon it's got, and you like make a team of robots or whatever, and you had to fight through like these tournament cups or whatever. I don't remember what it's called. Maybe it was called like Bot Arena or something. Bot Arena. I used to love that game. Yeah, but Bot Arena, there we go. I don't know how on earth I remember that from nowhere, but I used to love playing that game all the time. So it's funny how these two games are the ones which are the lasting memories in my brain. But no, these PvE modes are pretty like interesting because like I feel like I've played quite a few sort of tower defense spins in recent times. Like tower defense by themselves, I'm like treasure hunt. Okay, well, I mean, sure, why not? Well, we'll give it a shot. It's been a while since we've done the treasure hunt. Yeah, but these PvE modes, like, you know, it's funny because when I first like started playing games, I suppose I was introduced to them. You know, played Rex DD, played a decent amount of Bloons as well. Not as much as some people have. I wouldn't say it makes up a significant portion of my childhood, but like a lot of these tower defense games, I sort of like gave me a hunger for them, and eventually I just kind of like stopped playing them because I just got kind of bored of them, to be honest. We might also need to customize our shovel. Now I've thought about it. I don't know if this pauses the timer, so I don't even know if we can interact with this, but. But I don't want the shovel to break because that would just be more of a nuisance if anything, and it doesn't matter that much if we actually win this or not, to be honest. But yeah, tower defense. Oh yeah, but then like I feel like nowadays there's much more sort of like in keeping to have like the orcs must die style of tower defense, where it's like it's not quite tower defense on its own. It's like you are a participant, I suppose, in the tower defense. Like you are your own tower too. You like run around. Like, of course, you like build towers, you do upgrades or something, but you know you can't actually beat the level just through the towers alone. You also have to be sort of running around the place with guns ablazing, defeating the enemies or using some sort of utility to actually get it done. Like like obviously Orcs Must Die was like one of the big ones, which I can't remember if I played or not, because I remember a friend wanted to play this with me, and I don't remember if I actually ended up playing it with him or not, so my apologies if I never did. Yeah, there's another shooter game I played, or like tower defense shooter game that I played, which was like, I can't remember, I think it was called like Sanctum or Sanctum 2 or something, which, you know, we played it for a little bit. I don't think I even played it all that much, to be honest. Maybe like, probably like less than an hour or something. I thought it was alright though. You know, Genshin Impact has its own sort of like mode called out like Theatre Mechanicus. There we go. Where you, well, I guess it's less involved. It's much more like a tower defense, I suppose. In a vanilla sense, you still have some sort of an influence, but not a huge amount of influence compared to other games. And, you know, of course, Man vs. Machine from TF2, that's sort of like going all the way in the other direction, where, you know, there's a spectrum from purely towers to purely player-based defences. That goes pretty hard, I would say, the purely player-based defences, because, I mean, as I said, you can build towers if you are the engineer class, but I'm pretty sure it's not an efficient strategy for everyone to play engineer. But what do I know? Yeah, that skews pretty heavily on the sort of player-controlled side. The Fortnite, and by Fortnite I don't mean the Battle Royale mode, but the single-player Fortnite mode was PvE as well. I don't genuinely know what it played like because I've never played it before. Like, I also like never heard about anyone even talking about it. Like, is it still updated? Was it just like a standalone game? The wildest thing is I remember seeing the trailer for Fortnite Save the World, like when it first came out. Again, probably through Far From Subtle, because that's how I got my game trailer news in the first place. And being like, oh, that looks like a pretty cool game. Maybe it's like Left 4 Dead style or whatever. And it's weird to look back on Fortnite and be like, whoa, you know, the thing that really took off from it, it's the Battle Royale. I'm not saying that's necessarily bad or whatever. It's just like, I guess it's kind of amusing, if anything. But yeah, Fortnite Save the World, I think that was PvE. I don't really know if it was tower defense, but I assume it was like defending your base somewhat. Who knows, really? And it's also weird because Overwatch itself had the PvE mode, right? It like trialed it in like a sort of test run in like a limited time event or whatever. I cannot remember what it was called. I didn't play it either, so you know, my knowledge of it is not particularly amazing. But it's like, it's funny how they had that. I remember it was just like, nah, that's not coming anymore. But I don't know what's going on. Excuse me. Yeah, I don't really know what's going on with whatever's happening with Blizzard. Like, I don't know. not really my place to say, not really my place to speculate or commentate on. It's just sort of like interesting, I suppose, from an outside perspective. Being like, oh, you know. I don't know, I guess tower defense modes kind of feel like, I'm not going to say they're passé, nowadays, because I'm sure people still love them, but they feel very retro as a genre now, don't they? You know, like if I hear someone being like, oh, you want to play, like, check out this cool new like AAA title, I'll be like, oh, what is it? And it's like, oh, it's a tower defense. I'll be like, whoa, that's like we're going like old school, like the style of the genre. You know, I wonder who's that's necessarily appealing to. Because of course, you know, all the big things nowadays are always like action RPGs, open world exploration, shooters. There's a very much, I suppose, there's a sort of trifecta of genres, and you know, a lot of these like AAA action titles, I suppose, basically encompass all three of them. Mainly just because like crafting survival, I suppose, isn't. I don't know if it necessarily plays a big enough part in those games to have a genre all for itself. But I forgot what I was going with this. Yeah, we sort of like. I don't even know what they're called. I suppose after the treasure hunt is over, I'll look up what they're legitimately actually called, because I don't really know what the genre is called. I think it's a much more engaging way, I suppose, to play tower defense. And I'm not saying it in spite of tower defense. You know, obviously, they should both like coexist. You know, why reduce the amount of genres of games which can exist? Why not just instead, you know, have both of them coexisting? Because different strokes for different folks. Some people like some people like the other. That's just how, you know, life is in general. But I think it's, from a much more analytical standpoint, it's like a nice sort of way to get a much more interaction in, I suppose, with the tower defense genre in general, because the tower defense genre is, by nature, sort of uninvolved. You know, it's very hands off. Is probably how I describe it. You know, you don't have too much involvement with whatever's going on. It's there we go. Literally 5 seconds left. You don't have much involvement of what's going on or while the actual action's happening. Like, I suppose it's sort of like similar in the same vein as strategy, except for strategy you tend to make a lot more on the fly decisions, I'd imagine. Well, I don't know, turn-based strategy? I guess turn-based strategy is, maybe that's the way to think about it, is tower defense is basically the strategy. It's basically a strategy game, you know. You like, you know, you have your turns, you know, the turns are just way longer, I suppose, when you might usually be used to. You have your turn to be the planning phase of, let's see if we can get this conversation in time. You have a planning phase of building the towers, and then you have an enemy's turn of like them trying to take down your towers or something, right? I guess that's an interesting way of looking at tower defense. I've never really thought about that. Anyway, why Fauna? That outfit, it looks positively fantastic on you, dearie. Really? I'm so happy to hear that, though. I was worried everyone would think it looks, weird. Nonsense. You look fabulous. Right, Pudding, don't you think this outfit suits her? It looks great on you. I'm not going to be here and insult for her. Oh my gosh, you're so nice, Pumpkin. I'll cherish these clothes forever. In fact, as soon as I get home, I'm going to wash them, fold them, and put them away for safekeeping. I think you might be missing the point. A stylish ensemble such as yours mustn't be hidden away. It must be put on display, dearie. I feel like we've had that conversation before. I'm not really sure. We've had so many conversations, it's pretty hard to tell nowadays. But yeah, I've actually genuinely never thought about the tower defense. The tower defense is kind of like the turn-based strategy, and then like this shooter tower defense or whatever is kind of like the real-time strategy genre. I've never really thought about that. What an interesting way to look at these sort of genres of games. How legitimate, I suppose, is that as analysis? I don't really know. But anyway, hold on. Orcs must die. What sort of genre is this considered as Wikipedia? Action tower defense. I guess that makes sense. Sanctum 2. First person shooter? What? First person shooter tower defense. Okay. Well, I guess it just is like tower defense, but I feel like, you know, it should be called like real-time tower defense or something, you know, the same way strategy versus real-time strategy is. But I guess the thing about it is, when I say tower defense, you don't really think of like slow methodical play necessarily. I guess it's kind of chaotic because you're kind of doing things on the fly at the same time. It's just, I don't know, I feel like there's enough of a distinction, I suppose, to have a player character be there, I suppose, you know, influencing the action compared to the towers sort of passively, not passively doing it, but you passively watching the towers and interacting only through like upgrades or like placing new towers. Which reminds me also, I love like the Game Maker's Toolkit Game Jam, which actually, now I think about it, it's coming up soon. Am I going to participate? Nope. But it's cool to see, because I like to see what people come up with, because the reason I like this game jam is it's always based around like interesting mechanics or like concepts of mechanics in the first place. It reminds me of someone who made like a tower defense game, but it was basically like a real-time strategy tower defense game, because you had to, I forgot to talk to Blabbers, that's what I was going to do. I was going to get all these fossils appraised. It's basically a real-time tower defense game where basically you had one tower and you had to basically pick it up and put it down the entire time. Like you couldn't just sort of like passively sit there and watch your tower just destroy or annihilate the enemies. You had to sort of be quite involved with the entire process at the same time. And I was like, that's a very, very interesting sort of concept or mechanic for a game, to be honest. That's certainly one of the coolest ones I've seen. Yeah. So I don't know, action defense? it just, anyway, this whole point was because of Man vs. Machine, which was something I played a reasonable amount when I was younger. Like, I said I played a lot of TF2 when I was younger, and that's true, because, you know, I did play a lot of TF2 with my friends. You might be like, what's your favourite class? It was Pyro, and yeah, I don't know, we often had like sniper wars or whatever, and just like public servers. But in general, like Man vs. Machine is also something we played quite a reasonable amount of. I don't really know where I was going with this. It's just like a fun game mode, I suppose. I suppose if you're interested in trying it, you can actually legitimately go play it yourself, because Tier 2 is free to play, and it's probably still there. Like, I don't really know. I remember, like, when it first came out and people were trying to develop, like strategies for it or whatever have you. Like, I don't know how strategies go for it nowadays, but I'm trying to remember. All I remember was, like, Medic was deemed like incredibly bad in Man vs. Machine. I think so. Maybe I just didn't have a good understanding of the meta, which is, you know, also possibly fair. But that's the thing I remember. It was just like, oh yeah, you're not meant to play Medic. Because I remember, like, for whatever reason, I was such a like tryhard for no apparent reason. Well, of course, you know, just very classic younger me, very achievement oriented, very achievement focused, efficiency focused. One of my friends wanted to play Medic during Man vs. Machine, and I was very insistent that he was like, no, you shouldn't, you know, because Medic isn't good in this. Despite the fact that, you know, who am I to judge whether a character is good or not in Man vs. Machine? And who cares? I'm just there to have fun. Same friend who asked to play Orcs Must Die, actually. Now I think that's you know, double apologies to that friend. And I remember being, I feel like I was quite passive aggressive, you know, when I was playing. Well, not passive aggressive, but just sort of like a, you know, well, maybe I was passive aggressive while we were playing, just being like, oh man, we were like lost around and we're like, oh, it's because we don't have enough damage or something. I don't know why I was like that, you know. To be fair, I was like 13 or something. I'm not going to say that completely excuses my behaviour, but sometimes, you know, when you're a kid or a teen, you know, you don't know how to properly, like, handle, I suppose, being a normal person. So sometimes that's not true. Like, sometimes, you know, when you're a teen, you just make, like, dumb decisions which you look back on and you're like, what? Sorry about that little bit of a pause. I lost my train of thought, though. I genuinely don't remember what I was saying. Anyway, action tower defenses or whatever. I hope I wasn't in the middle of like a very salient point or whatever. But, you know, I don't know. It was fun. Man vs. Machine. Bring it back. You know, I don't really play any shooters now. Maybe Valorant will introduce one. That wouldn't surprise me, actually. I feel like it could translate pretty well. But anyway, I'm going to round this episode off here. So if you have been watching, thank you very much. It's been Adam across New Horizons. I've been Dear Darling. Likes, comments, subscription, shares, greatly appreciated. Twitter, Discord down below. Hope you see each other again. But for now, it's our farewell. So until next time. Bye-bye for now.